Marty Bird is the highly intelligent protagonist of the Ozark series, who at one point agrees to work for the second largest drug cartel in Mexico, the Navarro cartel. When his partner Bruce gets caught embezzling around $8 million from the drug cartel, and let me just take a quick second to point out how dumb of an idea it is to embezzle money from a drug cartel. But still, I digress. Marty, through his quick wits and improvisational abilities, is able to convince Dell, a high-ranking subordinate of Omar Navarro, to allow him and his family to travel to the Ozark Mountains to continue to launder money for the cartel at an even higher rate. Only Marty Bird could pitch and then convince a man at gunpoint that a tourist location in Missouri would be a more cash-rich market to launder money than Chicago, Illinois. In all fairness, Marty did make a quality point about Chicago being a far riskier location to embezzle money than Missouri. But still, this was a tough sell, but as you will see, Marty has a knack for making the impossible possible. The reason why this show is so good, in my opinion, is that Marty Bird is just a brilliant individual. But he stands out in his mathematical, logical intelligence. Now, according to the American developmental psychologist Howard Gardner, the developer of the multiple intelligence theory, mathematical, logical intelligence is the ability to calculate, quantify, consider propositions and hypotheses, and carry out complete mathematical operations. It enables us to perceive relationships and connections and to use abstract, symbolic thought and sequential reasoning skills and inductive and deductive thinking patterns. Now, Marty is so well versed as a financial advisor that he unknowingly passed Dell's test, which was to uncover whether or not the cartel's finances were being embezzled by their current financee. Marty is told he is simply being asked to go over the company's numbers, but after doing so, is able to deduce that something is wrong. He believes that Dell is being skimmed. Marty's able to deduce this due to his superior sequential reasoning skills, which directly translates to the ability to start with stated rules, premises, or conditions and engage in one or more steps to reach a solution to a problem. Through a strict adherence to these sequential reasoning principles, Marty is able to uncover illogical relationships and connections where others would find nothing out of the ordinary. Marty is not only able to identify others' sophisticated methods of embezzling and money laundering that are meant to be concealed, but he is able to create bewilderingly sophisticated tactics of his own that even FBI analysts who are literally onto him cannot seem to crack. Marty is not your everyday financial advisor with the ability to money launder. He is a financial genius that is so skilled in his craft that he is later recruited by the FBI because they simply do not have anyone in their building with the skills that he possesses. He is one of those, as Ruth would say.
I think he's one of those savants.
Although he is a genius in the art of financial advising, he is able to carry over those skills to money laundering unfathomable amounts of money in offshore bank accounts. Marty appears extremely socially intelligent as well. This is partly due to his emotional intelligence. Marty has no issue conceding position, appearing weak, or holding his tongue in moments when the opposite would not serve his long-term goals, which is in stark contrast to his wife Wendy, who for one reason or another needs to dig at others when there's not any good reason to do so. Conversely, Marty is able to be assertive when necessary, commanding when possible, and confident when absolutely certain of his leverage. Despite being reserved and risk-averse by nature, Marty intuitively understands when to be the opposite, because he simply understands how to pick his shots. Marty understands more so than most people in the Ozark universe that people have a price, a number, a goal, or an incentive that can be negotiated or bargained with. Marty is an expert at anticipating what these things may be, but he is also capable of figuring out these things out on the fly. Marty is a Machiavellian through and through, who exhibits his pragmatic nature almost at every turn. Marty's social intelligence is most pronounced in the season 1 finale when his family is fleeing from the dangerous Snells, who are angry with him for ruining their drug smuggling operation covertly operated within Peter Mason's Church on the Water. All the while, the cartel are also on Marty and his family's tail because their live-in roommate, Buddy, kills their enforcer, Garcia. During this episode, Marty visits the records office and has the records clerk pull up maps in order to identify where the Snells' property is located, while assuring the clerk he wants the information for his son's project. At this moment, Marty is made aware of the expansive size of the Snells' property. When Marty returns to his home, he is confronted by an infuriated Del who demands he enter the SUV. Marty and Del go to a warehouse of some kind, and Del proceeds to torture Marty in order to find out where Garcia is. Marty claims to not know, while also suggesting that he has an answer to all of Del's problems, amidst the toenail-ripping torture that Del and his enforcers are conducting upon him. Even though Marty is not trained to overcome torture, he persists through it in order to pitch one last life-saving effort to Del. After pleading over and over to hear him out, Marty miraculously gets Del to agree to hear Marty out one more time. When at the Snells' property, Marty is able to identify interests that both parties have while appealing to the inner motivations that belie them in order to convince these vastly different parties to work with one another. First, Marty points out that the Snells have a distribution problem, as a result of Peter Mason's refusal to continue to preach on the water as a front for the Snells' heroin distribution chain. Then, Marty points out the fact that the cartel loses 20% of their product due to seizures, and by taking up distribution for the Snells, the cartel will be able to offset these losses with their abundance of manpower and expansive distribution systems that they already have in place. Now, Marty is able to preemptively identify that Del would not be convinced by this offer alone, and appeals to an even bigger motivation of his, which is to create a larger cash-rich operation that would allow for even more money laundering. This would be the creation of a riverboat casino, which would later be known as the Missouri Belle. But this would require flooding to once again occur on the Snells' property, something that forced their ancestors to move their property uphill 75 years prior by a power company. Anticipating this protest by the Snells, Marty unearths an interest that the Snells also have that would be worth the flooding and the creation of a riverboat casino on their property. Marty accurately predicts that the Snells have purchased more and more surrounding land every year since 1985, while never building anything on that newly acquired land, in order to gain leverage against the power company that displaced their ancestors long ago as a result of the flooding that previously ruined their land's value. Marty tells the Snells that the money from the riverboat casino on their property would give them the ability to purchase more acreage than they ever could before, and, as a byproduct, have far more leverage. Marty's ability to masterfully identify the interests of both parties, predict the hurdles that he may confront in attempting to meld these interests, and do so in the chaotic circumstances he was forced to operate within, show that Marty truly understands people and what he needs to do to make them come to the table for his own benefit. If anything is clear in this show, it is that Marty loves his family deeply, and he will always put his family first. This is why it sometimes gets lost on me that he is an anti-hero. What Marty must do to survive at the end of the day makes him a pretty bad guy. Independent of all the life and death situations that Marty has to deal with on a daily basis as a byproduct of working for the cartel, his character is one of a deeply caring and loving father. And depending how Wendy treats him, a loving and caring husband as well. Despite this, he does work for a horrific organization, and working for this organization often makes him do horrible things to people around him in order to protect his family. Short of what Bruce does in the opening of the series, I do not believe that Marty thought he was endangering his family by using his financial acumen to aid the cartel. But like a lot of things in life, things don't always go according to plan. But countless actions by Marty reveal that his utmost priority is his family and their health and survival. Such a scene in episode 1 when, instead of pleading for his life, he simply asked Ellis to allow him to say goodbye to his children one last time. His love for his family is clear, even in moments of betrayal. This is exhibited in his desire to keep Wendy alive despite Dell offering to kill her for her emptying his bank account and her ongoing affair. Marty does this because he understands that he needs Wendy's help to care for the children if he is going to successfully conduct his operations down in the Ozarks and keep his children alive. Marty at one point even attempts to commit suicide so that his family can reap his health insurance benefits and afford to live on the run from the Navarro cartel. In later seasons, as Wendy becomes more and more enamored by her role in the political scene in Missouri, despite the obvious danger it was presenting to their family, Marty at no point abandons her outright, but instead works tirelessly to clean up the messes that she would continue to make. Through and through, Marty's a family man who, unlike some anti-heroes, never mistakenly believes their actions are for the benefit of their family when deep down, they selfishly know they are not. I am alluding to Walter White. Marty Byrde, in my opinion, is one of the most intelligent anti-heroes in any show. And in this way, he parallels Walter White. Marty's ability to think critically and act rationally, even in the most precarious situations, reflect an unfathomable blend of intelligence and emotional control that I have seen very few examples of in other characters. There were very few times while watching this show that I believe that I could have made a better decision than he did, even while contemplating what he did in retrospect. Truthfully, I would have never in a million years accepted the risk of working for the cartel, even if my role in it seemingly insulated me from the harsher realities of that organization. But then again, without this horrendous decision of his, we would not have gotten the amazing narrative that is Ozark. Marty Byrde is an anti-hero, and there is no denying that, despite all of his admirable qualities. But you cannot deny for even 1 second that he did everything he did for his family. At the end of the day, this is what sets his villainous mission apart from that of Walter White. Marty's mission from start to finish was always clear.